Welcome to the podcast about venture capital, where investors and founders alike can learn how VCs make decisions and reach conviction. Your host is Nick Moran, and this is The Full Ratchet.
Welcome to another special release of Investor Stories. On this installment, the experts discuss a startup that they did not invest in, why they passed, and if there was a key learning that now informs their approach. Here's the segment called Why I Passed. On today's special segment, we have Yanev Suissa of Saenko. Yanev, can you tell us a story about a good or a bad pass? A story about a startup that you passed on.
If you're seeing great deals, you pass on a lot of great things. And that's just the nature of it. The anti-portfolio. So, we had options on Netscope and SkyHigh who've done well, Phantom, a lot of great deals. When I was at NEA, I tried to get them to do Compass and we ended up not doing it, which is now a multi-billion-dollar company. So, it happens, but that means you're seeing great stuff.
On today's special segment, we have Ali Hamid of CoVenture and Crossbeam. Ali, can you tell us a story about a good or a bad pass? A story about a startup that you passed on.
So usually when we've passed and we've regretted it, it's because of anchoring bias. So what will often happen is a company will do a round at some valuation. They'll come to us and they'll say, hey, we want to do the next round at like 10x the last valuation. We'll think, have you really done anything to like grow 10x or 20x? And humans are really bad at linear math or nonlinear math. Or at least their intuition's bad at nonlinear math. And sometimes our intuition's been wrong because the company goes parabolic and we get too cheap on valuation. So, one was a company already in our portfolio that we were lucky enough to seed, but we missed the Series A. We should have led that. And we didn't because the Series A was being done at a 20x step up to the seed a year after we made the investment. And, that was a bummer. There was another that we over-diligenced. It was a company that was growing like crazy. It was an awesome market. We loved the insiders involved. The founding team was amazing. And we had the opportunity to buy a whole bunch of the company at about a $20 million valuation. And now the business is 9 figures revenues and they're doing incredibly well. And we just over-diligenced it.
What does that mean? You spent too much time and you lost the deal, or you diligenced it until you found reasons to pass?
Yeah, no, we just spent too long. I mean, there were some regulatory components. We started hiring like regulatory attorneys and talking to a million people. And we tried to like have like a good debate internally. And I think the reality was just the asymmetry of like the tail risk of that regulatory thing being an issue relative to how well the company was likely to do. We didn't do a good job building our expected value and being comfortable with the tail risk.
I see. On this special segment, we have Maryanna Saenko of Future Ventures. Maryanna, can you tell us a story about a good or a bad pass? A story about a startup that you passed on.
An example here is just given that what we talked about earlier in terms of what kind of risk are we willing to take on and why. There's a company called New Culture. And if anyone checks our website, they will see it in our portfolio because we passed on the first round and then went back to the company with our tail between our legs and said, you guys absolutely executed in a way that we were uncertain of your capacities to. And essentially what New Culture is doing is that they're an alternative protein company specifically focused on synthetically creating the casein protein, which is the most important protein in cheese structure. It's the one thing that none of the vegan cheeses have been able to make, which is why, from my perspective, they're all terrible. I don't know that they're terrible because of casein, but all vegan cheese is just largely inedible to my palate. And New Culture is focused on mozzarella. They developed this capacity to make casein. And so when we first met them, we said, this is brilliant, but we're not sure you can make enough casein, the titer, right? The actual yield of that amount of protein. You're doing on such a small level and it's so expensive. And it's not clear to us that the trajectory that you have for scaling this up will work. Turns out they knocked it out of the park and came back around for their Series A about a year and a half after our first conversation with them. And at that point, actually had a lead investor. The round was closing and, reached out to us because we had nice conversations in the past. And we in turn said, we would love to participate. We would be honored. We're so sorry we missed this the first time around, but you guys really did show us And I think this happens a fair bit in the world that we live in, is that we're, I think, reasonably skeptical, particularly at sometimes of these earliest stages, especially in things like food products, where we're probably unwilling to invest in something that we can't try or taste or engage with. And that often means that, sometimes, like in the case of new culture, we're fortunate enough to come back around and see it again. But more often than not, we just totally miss it and then see that company just absolutely taking off. And you go, oh, I read the science wrong. But it's always so gratifying to see those companies do well.
That will conclude this installment of Investor Stories. If you're enjoying the program and would like to see it continue, take a moment and leave a 5-star review in iTunes. Also, if you'd like updates on new content from TFR, as well as the top 10 VC articles every week, go to fullratchet.net and sign up for the newsletter. Okay, that will wrap things up for today. Until next time, over-prepare, choose carefully, and invest confidently. Thanks for joining me.